Assalamu alaikum. In today's lesson, we're going to explain the relative clauses. So let's take a look. Okay, basically, there are two types of relative clauses. The first one is called a defining relative clause. And this clause gives essential information and cannot be removed from the sentence. I'm going to show you some examples in order for you to understand what that means. A non-defining relative clause gives non-essential information and can be removed from the sentence easily without any problems. Let's take some examples. So that's a defining relative clause. Look at this example. Julia is the woman who or that works in the office with me. Now, this part is called the defining relative clause, who or that works in the office with me. It consists of two parts. We have the relative pronoun here, who or that. This is called the relative pronoun. And then this is the remaining part of the clause. So all of this part is called the clause. Here in the situation, it's the defining relative clause, and this is the relative pronoun. Now, this is a defining relative clause because it cannot be removed from the sentence. You cannot say Julia is the woman and then stop. You can't say this. This makes no sense. Julia is the woman. Of course, if you say this to someone, then this person is going to ask for more explanation. Which woman are you talking about? Now, if you say Julia is a woman, that's okay, no problems. So this can be an independent sentence. But if you say Julia is the woman, then any person listening to you will ask you, what woman are you talking about? Here's another example. It's a self-help book, which or that teaches you how to relax. So this part is called the defining relative clause. Again, it consists of two components. The relative pronoun here, this is called the relative pronoun, and then this is the whole clause from which until the end, to relax. Again, you cannot say it's a self-help book and then stop at this part. You will need more explanation. You will need to explain more. What self-help book are you talking about? That's the house where I was born. Again, you need this extra information. It cannot be removed from the sentence. You cannot say, that's the house, and then stop. It doesn't make any sense. Is Frank the man whose brother plays for the Lakers? You need this part. You cannot stop at this extent, at this word here. Is Frank the man? You can't stop at this. So all of these are examples of defining relative clauses. Now, pay attention to these rules. Use who for people and which for things. Yeah, like this example. The woman, who. A book, which. You can use that instead of who or which. Like this example, you can remove who and just use that. Remove which and just use that. Okay, in some sentences, you can remove the relative pronoun and in others you can't. Like these examples here. First, you can only remove the relative pronoun if there is another subject after it. So look at this example here. Julia is the woman who works with me. In this situation, you cannot remove the relative pronoun who. You can't remove it because there is no subject after who. You cannot say Julia is the woman who works with me. Nope, you can't. Look at this one. I just got a message from the girl I met on the flight to Paris. Here, originally, we have a relative pronoun, which is who I met on the flight to Paris. We removed the relative pronoun from the situation. Why? Because we have a subject. Which one? I. So if you have I, this means that you can remove the relative pronoun. There's another subject after the relative pronoun. Look at this example. It's a self-help book that teaches you how to relax. This is the relative pronoun. You cannot remove it because after the relative pronoun, there is no subject. There is just a verb right away. There's a verb. So you cannot remove that. You cannot say it's a self-help book, teaches you how to relax. Never. Look at this sentence. This is a new phone which I bought yesterday. So look at that. Which I bought. You can remove which because you have a subject. I. You can just say this is a new phone I bought yesterday. Like what we did here in this sentence. This is the girl who I met. You can just say I met right away. And also, you need to remember, you can't remove where and whose in any situation. You cannot do this. It never happens. Okay. Let's look at that, please. Non-defining relative clauses. This clause gives extra information and can be removed from the sentence. Like this example, this painting, which was painted in 1860, is worth millions of dollars. You can remove this part from the sentence. You can just say, this painting is worth millions of dollars. And we use commas to separate the non-defining relative clause from the rest of the sentence. Here's another example. Last week, I visited my aunt, who is nearly 90 years old. This is extra information. It's not essential. It can be removed. I can just say, last week I visited my aunt and stop the sentence at this part. No problems. Faid, where my grandfather was born, is a beautiful little town. I can just say, Faid is a beautiful little town. Again, pay attention to the commas. My neighbor, whose son goes to my school, has just got married. You can just say, my neighbor has just got married. Okay. As I said, we use commas to separate the non-defining relative clause from the rest of the sentence. Remember, you can't remove the relative pronouns from the non-defining relative clauses. You can't remove which here. Never. Under any circumstances, you can. You cannot say this painting was painted in 1860 is worth millions of dollars. Never, never. You can never do that. You can't remove who. You can't remove where and whose. You cannot do this. You also can't use that instead of who or which. So remember that in the defining relative clauses, you had the ability to replace which with that and who with that, but you can't do this here in the non-defining relative clause. Okay, let's take some exercises. What you need to do right now is to complete using who or which or that or where or whose. Take some time, pause the screen, grab a pen and a piece of paper and write down your answers. And then in a few seconds, I'm going to show you the correct answers. Okay, let's take a look at the answers. Rob and Corina, who have twins, often need a babysitter. Who? Okay, I'd like to ask you a question. Can you exchange who with that here? Can you do that? Nope, you can't. Why? Because this is a non-defining relative clause. And we said that in a non-defining relative clause, you cannot exchange who with that. Number two, the White House is a place. So we say where the President of the United States lives. Number three, the sandwich which you made me yesterday was delicious. And we can replace which and use that, because this is a defining relative clause. The woman who lived here before us was a waiter, and we can use that instead of who, because this is also a defining relative clause. Stieg Larsson, whose books formed the Millennium Trilogy, died in 2004. Whose books? So he is the writer of these books. My computer is a lot faster than the one which you bought or that you bought. Okay, I'd like to ask a question. In which of these sentences can we remove the relative pronoun? Like in which of them can you remove which? Can you remove which or that here? Like both of them and just say, my computer is a lot faster than the one you bought. Can you do that? Can you remove who's here? Can you remove who, which or that, where, and who? Take some time, think about it. This is actually a difficult question. In some of these sentences, you can remove the relative pronoun, and then others you just can't. Okay, I will tell you the right answers now. Now, you can only remove the relative pronoun from these two sentences, 3 and 6. That's it. Why? I'll tell you why. Because there is a subject after the relative pronoun. You here, there is a subject. So we can say the sandwich you made me yesterday was delicious. And also number 6, my computer is a lot faster than the one you bought. There is subject here. Because there is subject, so we can remove the relative pronoun. But in the other situations, we just can't. Now, You may say, perhaps we can do this here because there is a subject. No, we said that you can never remove the relative pronoun from a non-defining relative clause. This is non-defining, so you can never remove the relative pronoun. Okay. And the same goes here in number 5. Let's take more exercises. Do the same thing. Complete with who or which or that or where or whose. Take some time to think. Okay, I'll show you the right answers now. The Mona Lisa, which has been damaged several times, is now displayed behind bulletproof glass. So which? Okay. Look, that's the woman whose dog bit me last week. So whose? Remember, here in the situation, you cannot replace which and use that because this is a non-defining relative clause. So you cannot use that here. On our last vacation, we visited Stratford upon Avon, where Shakespeare was born. That's a place, so we say where. We all went to the game except Marianne, who doesn't like basketball. Who? Can you use that here? You can't. Why? Because this is a non-defining relative clause. That's why there is a comma here. That man who you saw at the party was my friend, or that you saw at the party was my friend. We can use that here because this is a defining relative clause. That's the park where I learned to ride the bike. Place here. Okay. I would like to ask you the same question. In which of these sentences can we remove the relative pronoun? The relative pronoun like where or who or that can be removed completely and the sentence will not be affected. Will still be grammatically correct. Take some time to think about it. Okay, I'll tell you the answer right now. Actually, you can only do this in one sentence, which is number 11. That man who or that you saw at the party, you can remove it. You can just say that man you saw at the party was my friend. Why? Because there is a subject after. Okay, maybe you will tell me that we can do the same thing here in the situation. That's the park I learned to ride a bike. Never, never. Why? Because as I taught you, you cannot exchange where, and at the same time, you cannot exchange the other article, which is whose. So where cannot be removed. You cannot say never, never remove where, never. Under any circumstances, you cannot remove where. And at the same time, you cannot remove he, who's here from this situation. So where or whose cannot be removed, as I told you before. So you can only remove the relative pronoun here in number 11 because you have a subject here. Okay. Here's another exercise. Which of these sentences is a non-defining relative clause? Non-defining. Identify the non-defining relative clauses and then use commas because, as we said before, non-defining relative clauses are usually separated from the rest of the sentence by commas. So once you know that this is a non-defining relative clause, use commas, one before it and one after it. Take some time to think because this is a little bit difficult. Okay, I'll show you the answers now. Okay. Now, this sentence doesn't have an undefining relative clause. It's a defining relative clause. You cannot say this is the place and stop. You can't. You can just say this is the place, stop. No. What does that mean? You need to define this place. The museum that we visited yesterday was amazing. You cannot say the museum. The museum was amazing. Some of you might say, but we can remove this part. We can say the museum was amazing. What museum? You have the article there. So which museum are you talking about? If I'm talking to you and I say the museum was amazing, you will ask me, which museum are you talking about? So if a sentence is not complete by itself, it needs to be completed. It needs to be defined. Because I said that, so I have to tell you which museum I'm talking about. Got it? You understand what I'm saying? Okay, this one is a non-defining relative clause. Beijing hosted the 2008 Olympic Games. You can simply remove this part. It's okay. So we use a comma before it and a comma after it. Number 4, Michael Jackson's Thriller was one of the best-selling albums of the 80s. And this is a non-defining relative clause. You can remove it. It's not essential. These are the shoes that I'm wearing to the party tonight, right? Of course, you cannot remove this part that I am wearing to the party. You cannot just say, these are the shoes. What shoes? Why do you use that? It doesn't make sense. Sally and Joe, who got married last year, are expecting the first baby. Again, this is non-essential information. You can just say Sally and Joe are expecting the first baby. No problems. I hope today's lesson was useful. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you so much for your time. Assalamu alaikum.